And what's going on, guys? It's me, QG, back for another video. And this one is a little interesting. Well, I don't know if it's interesting, but I just want to talk to you all for a moment. And we are in a cherry blossom forest. Unfortunately, this isn't the original cherry blossom forest, but it kind of looks like it. My server is actually really jacked up. You can see, well, you can't really see, but there's Nightmare's Castle in the very far distance. Um, but yeah, we're gonna talk about Dark Souls today, and I just want to get my feelings out about the series, and I just want y'all guys' input on it because going further, I do want to, make things right and not waste time per se, or like waste your guys' time or anybody on the team's time. So I will get into this. First of all, a Dark Soul created by me, but created by Split. Split, if you guys don't know, Split Prime, very good friend of mine. Love him to bits. Creator of Without Color, one of the POVs of Elemental Rising. Has helped many people for the last few years, including myself. Great guy. And he originally actually wrote a Dark Soul. He wrote basically the premise of most of season one up till the point where I think Orange Leader dies, or up to the point where Jade gets banished from the Orange Village. So he wrote up to like around there, and then I just took it over because he had other projects to work on, and so I said I'll just take over so he wouldn't be all stressed out. And from there I took lead of a Dark Soul. So a Dark Soul from the very start has been darkness oriented. Dark Soul came out like either around the end of Rainbow Quest or like during Steve Legends or something around that time, because a Dark Soul is actually, let me pull this up real quick because I have no idea how old. I think a Dark Soul is 3 years old, but I could be wrong. Okay, so Dark Soul began 2 years ago. Steve Legends started 4 years ago. So I don't even know where is the timeline on this. 4 years ago, huh? Weird. All right, so a Dark Soul, began 2 years ago. Following, I guess, sometime after Steve Legends and Rainbow Quest had ended, so it was still fresh in that kind of darkness, plot line. So that's where it is, and that's where it's been. The Dark Soul is a darkness-based story. But the thing about a Dark Soul, in my opinion, that I deem as different is the things that I did to it. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand that darkness has been definitely overused through a bunch of series due to, it being the new thing, the new plot point, plot device, an infection. Darkness is easy to use and easy to make into a plot line because it's easy. It's what we're used to. It's not most people who make these fan shows really know how to navigate away from, because it's easy. It's what we know, and trying anything different might not get the attention of anybody. So I think that's part of why we use darkness. But besides that, in my opinion, a Dark Soul isn't just a darkness series. It has other points to it. For example, a little other stories to it. So first of all, Jade's story so far, that has just been about him trying to find his identity because he is deemed as Dark Steve because of his powers, or you'll have Ezio who sees from his you'll see Ezio who has the face. You'll see Ezio who sees Jade as the face of his friend, but realistically has the powers and capabilities of the man who killed his best friend. So there's a lot of things that go with Jade's story on how he's trying to find his identity. And through season 2 to now, Jade claims herself as Jade, the Dark Hero. But as you see throughout this current third season, we have Nightmare Steve who's come back, and he's realizing, oh, I know who you are, Jade. You're not a green Steve. You're Dark Steve, the Dark Catalyst, my son. That was like the weirdest Nightmare Steve impression ever. I'm sorry, Matrix. I don't know how you do that. That hurts. But yeah, so you have Jade trying to figure out, well, not figure out who he is, but just trying to prove to himself, and prove to the world that he isn't just darkness. He isn't Dark Steve, and he isn't Anakin. He's his own person, his own hero, his own, this is his life. Which I guess you can say, yeah, it's part of still of a darkness story, but the series is a darkness-based show, which is understandable. Well, a darkness-based show. And then there's other plot lines, like, I try to go into a little other themes, like, Dark Soul is a little darker, so I kind of drive into those darker, adulty, real-world themes, like, with the bandits. They are, there's bandits in real life, people who are thieves and stuff, and there's people who, try to sell other humans. So these bandits are trying to sell, they're trying to sell unique Steves like Jade. So if there's any other unique Steves, like a unique purple Steve that might do well, on the selling market, like on the black market type thing, they're gonna go sell them, get money, and get things off of that. So that really insinuates that there is a higher up than the bandits that are selling this to, or they could just be selling it to other bandits. Another little plot thread that's active in our Dark Soul is Ezio. Ezio is a drunk, washed up hero who made a mistake, and now he's, not doing so well at coping with his mistake. His best friend died because of him, for being around him, and once again, Ezio has to see the face of the man who was his best friend, who now inhibits the powers and basically essence of the man who killed him. So that's hard on Ezio. He is Light Steve, which Light Steve is not original, but how I don't think so far I've seen a Light Steve that's been categorized or like story point as a washed up hero who did decide to retire on his own, remove the crystal, and just move away from reality itself. And plus, another thing is, which another story thread, which really doesn't get touched on or haven't been touched on yet in the show itself, is Ezio being one of the only Red Steves around, and not knowing where the Red Steves went. That is not. I would say that's not original because Ren requested it, but there is a deeper meaning to that into the story, which I will get into like at a later date or whatever. And I do have plans for that. Another story, little thread, is leadership. The idea of poor leadership and how sickness can affect the world. So darkness, affected the world like 2 times because of Elder Blue, and then because of Nightmare and Dark Steve and all that stuff. So, well, not because of Elder Blue, but Elder Blue got the elders killed, and kind of caused a lot of calamity for the other Steve races. So Orange Leader, was hurt, he was sick, and that started to drive him to not be such a good leader, not really leaving his little throne room, and not making the best decisions for all the Orange Thieves. So he wasn't a really great leader in life after the whole events of darkness and stuff. So that's a story of a bad leader, and then you have a story of legacy. You have the Yellow Prince, who is trying to live up to his father's expectations, knowing he's sick and can't do anything about it. So now Yellow Prince, a young Steve that's not even fit to be the king yet, is holding a big giant event in his kingdom to try to unite the chromatics to, oh, I forgot racism, which I know that's a crazy thing to me to outright say, but racism, the Steves really hate each other, and that's been shown with like Elder Blue. Elder Blue really hated other chromatic colors besides blue, and he was going to literally wipe out all the other chromatics using the darkness. And what you call it, um, there's Steve racism, and Yellow Prince said, I don't care, I see everyone as equals, we're all Steves. We need to, continue to thrive and, work together. So he pulls together this rainbow reunion, and it was going well until Nightmare Steve, showed up. And then another story thread is Ollie and Blair, fallen friendships. Another one is the people that Jade met and gave him his name. They were one of the first Steves in the series so far to show that they did not care about races and stuff and other races. They thought they were all equal. Yellow Prince would have loved them, but they're dead now. The Ravagers, I think I called them Ravagers. Ravagers, are racist against Orange Thieves. They hate Orange Thieves, but it's crazy because they wear orange armor, like orange trimmed armor, but they hate Orange Thieves and steal from them and torture them and stuff. This also goes back, the Orange leader not being a great leader, dealing with these Ravagers and basically just giving in, and, Ezekiel, being the last elder, his depression, like, I think that's all. Oh, and then one last thing I want to mention is Nightmare Steve. Even though Nightmare Steve is, used in the series, Nightmare Steve's used in the series, and, that's a used character already. People have done him. But he's usually this Yellow Steve who's the, evil darkness user, blah, blah, blah. But I decided to make him a pink Steve. I don't think, and a lot of people didn't expect that when I originally, revealed him to be Nightmare Steve. Didn't expect him to be a pink Steve. They're like, what? A pink Steve? Bubblegum Steve. And I also really do enjoy that because you have Bubblegum Steve, then you got B Steve for both the Nightmares. That's really cool and fun to see. But yeah, no, the Nightmare in the Dark Soul. He's a pink Steve, so he has psychic control. He uses darkness, but darkness isn't his primary source of power that he uses. He uses it as a tool, as a function to get ahead. By infecting people like the Blue Leader, and turning him into Soul Seeker, and using him for his advantage like that, because he uses the soul power to help further control the Steves he attacks and truly get into their body. Because darkness is, it takes over your body and it can take over your mind, but it's not going to take over your soul. So using the soul powers, and then he has an axe literally made out of the fears of his victims. So Nightmare Steve isn't the same cut and dry Nightmare Steve as he is in like Steve Saga or Rainbow Quest, even though I did enjoy Nightmare Steve and Rainbow Quest. He was kind of interesting. And then he's pure evil. He's like, judging his backstory, you could say that he's broken. But yeah, judging from his backstory, he had a bad backstory. He wasn't listened to, and because of that, that drove him to find new powers, and then eventually leading to a mistake that led to the death of his leader, and him not really giving a dang about anybody else and just enjoying the fear of people because it felt good. But nonetheless, even with me saying all that, that's not me trying to pressure you guys all into, thinking the series is good or thinking the series is completely original, because, it's not. It uses the crystals that stem from Rainbow Quest. It uses the exact same color Steves from Rainbow Quest. I just changed the indigo to purple. Um, it uses, existing characters in different storylines, like Light Steve, Dark Steve. Those are Nightmare Steve. Those are all characters from, previous Steve projects from Saber, or like any of the other, creators. Soul Seeker is an original Steve, but realistically, Soul Seeker is a parallel to Soul Steve from Rainbow Quest. So the series in general is a Darkness series, and it's not completely original. But I've planned all the way up to season 5, and what I want to do, continuing with season 3, is to make it special. And I've already recorded a few videos now, for the arc and then the next arc, and I think I made it original and unique as possible. But at the same time, if all people see is it being a Darkness series, and just being reused Darkness trope, you know, what what do I have to leverage off of? If people are just gonna see one thing, how do I go about it from there? Yeah, realistically, I can move on to different, villains and different topics and different storylines, which I will. It's not going to be all completely Darkness, you know, but there's things I want to do with Darkness still, since it is a Darkness-based show. And really what I'm doing this video is for is to put out how I feel and kind of get about how you guys feel about it, because I understand, cut and dry villains, the same evil people doing this and that, which I could say, honestly, the villains in this show so far, I wouldn't say are completely cut and dry. The bandits are doing their thing to try and survive in the world, but they're also really big jerks and stuff. The Ravagers are just racist. Elder Blue was just pretty much racist and kind of like a big nerd when it came to Darkness, studying it and, wanting to use it, like Nightmare and them did. And then now we have Nightmare Steve, who really, he just drives off fear. He just wants to make peak fear. That's his goal, is for peak fear. And I guess that might be just cut and dry to people, and which is understandable. Some villains have deep, deep messages and deep meanings, and really go out there and are not just like that. And a lot of people like Soul, because I love Soul. Soul is a really cool villain. He is one of my favorite Rainbow Quest villains, even though that arc definitely could have ended a little bit more different. But that was new. That was a fresh take on a antagonist in a Steve series. Um, and I do have plans for something similar to that, and not just being super, oh, I'm Darkness, I'm evil. I guess what I'm just trying to ask is, what is your opinion on Dark Soul? Do you feel like it's not gonna amount to anything? And I want y'all guys' honest opinion, even if it hurts me, because it more or less hurts me that I'm not able to give you guys what y'all want or like expecting out of a show. And I would be quite honest with you guys. Out of all the stories I've made so far, the only series I'm truly proud of is, at least on this channel, is My Lost Soul and the Alex era. I loved Alex era because it was original, one of my original babies, and I was able to finish it and complete the series with, like an almost satisfied feeling. But then looking back now, there's a lot of things that I've seen recently, and I'm just like, could have done better, could have done things differently, but it was that time and that level of creativity that I had used. And then My Lost Soul, because My Lost Soul was probably one of the biggest things I've made, in my opinion, because My Lost Soul focused on an actual mental crisis and feelings of personal things in my life and what probably other people might go through. And that's what that series was for. And I was never able to make something like My Lost Soul again. Even though My Lost Soul could have been definitely better if I gave it more time and did more things, had some cinematics and this and that. It could have been way better than what it was. But I still love it for what it is because it represented more than other things like Alex era and stuff like that. It represented more, it was more, but I've never been able to make anything like that again. I couldn't have that mental drive or motivation to make something like that again. And I'm trying my best with A Dark Soul, mainly because I didn't originally create this, Split did, and I've been doing my very best to try to make something that, he could be proud of seeing and watching, and what you guys can be happy with seeing and watching, and, seeing it as one of your favorite shows in the SCU, But at the same time, it's hard. Because Dark Soul was grounded, a grounded show. I never wanted it to be anything bigger than a grounded show. And I already know how it ends. But is that ending worth it? Is that ending something that you guys would want to see? Is that ending a perfect way to end this world? To end the show? After so far 2 years now. We'll be going on 3 soon. I can't do this forever, obviously. I'm in my 20s. Eventually, I'll have to end everything. These Steve shows will be over for me, at least. But I want to leave something good for other people to watch one day, if they stumble along my channel, or if y'all guys want to go back and replay. So my question is really, because I already know this video is long, even with me editing it, it's going to be long. What do you not like about Dark Soul? What do you think I could improve on? What's something you would like to see? What's something you don't want to see anymore? I just need feedback like that. Because then it can help me make the stories better. And I want A Dark Soul to be something I can be proud of. Something I don't need help with. Even though I'm asking for help right now. I will say this too. I'm a person personally who hates asking for help. I've always hated asking for help. And doing this right now even hurts me. Because I have to ask you guys. But this show is for you guys. It's not for me. So why not ask? I don't want help mainly because this series didn't start off as mine in the first place. It started off as someone else's idea. It wasn't mine. But now that it is mine, I want to make it good. I want to make it worth watching. So please help me out in the comments below. But with all that yapping aside, thank you for watching. I don't know when the next episode is going to be. 55 years from now, maybe. Hopefully not. I'll be posting another maps video sooner or later. And I'm sorry for all the wait. I'm sorry that it's taking so long to get videos out and that I have to post videos like this. I understand for people who unsubscribe and all that. Understandable. It happens. There's a much more I probably could have said, but I'm going to leave it at that because the video raw is already like 30 minutes. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching and let me know. Take care.